Hello everyone. Today we will be starting with the concept of organizational behavior. From today I will be doing my videos on the topic of organizational behavior. In this video I will be covering the introduction part of the organizational behavior, the nature of the organizational behavior, the various variables that affects the organizational behavior. Basically this is the introduction part of the organizational behavior. So if you try to understand what is the term organizational behavior, it is basically a new concept after it has been understand that the human resource of the organizations is considered as an asset. When it was realized that the people who are working in the organization they are the assets of the organization, so rather than they were considered as labor class before that, the concept of organizational behavior began. So you can say organizational behavior is a new concept which basically means is made up of two words: organization, behavior. If you talk about what is organization, the organization is basically an entity. So if you talk about the term organizational behavior, it is made up of two words: organization, behavior. So if you talk about what is organization, so organization is basically an entity. It is particularly, it can be a company, it can be an institution, it can be an association of people. So a single person cannot be considered as organization. Organization need to comprises one or more people having a particular purpose. They need to have a common purpose, then only that formation of group of people would be considered as organization. So in Greek word, organization means aggregation of human beings created for the attainment of certain goals. This is the term for organization. And if you consider what is behavior, behavior is basically how a person reacts in a particular situation, how a person thinks about something, and what a person says or does. So that is his behavior, how he would be responding in a particular situation. So if you talk about the term organizational behavior, in simple words we can say how a person behaves or act in a particular situation, in an organization, in a company, in an institution, in an association, is termed as organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is a systematic study of the action and the attitude of the people within the organization. So you can say organizational behavior is basically studying the human behavior at the individual level, at the group level, or at the organizational level. So according to Stephen P. Robbins, he simply defined organizational behavior as the study that investigates the impact of individual, group, and the structure on the behavior within which the organization, for the purpose of applying such knowledge towards improving organizational effectiveness. So you can say organizational behavior is basically concerned with understanding, predicting human behavior, and what are the factors that influences the human behavior in the organizational setting, so that to improve the organizational effectiveness. So this is the concept of organizational behavior, that is the behavior of an individual is being influenced by the organization, the human behavior in the organizational settings, and the environment. That is the reason of a particular behavior of an individual in a particular situation. So this is all about what actually organizational behavior means. Now the next topic we will be doing, that is the nature of organizational behavior. So Organizational behavior is a distinct field of study. Growing concern for people in the organization. Before, uh, if you can say, this is a new concept after the realization of human beings, the human resource and asset. So there is a growing concern for people that are working in the organization. So that is why it is a new concept that has been introduced. It is a behavioral approach to management, that is importance of human behavior in the organization, where it was understand that the behavior of individual is influenced by various factors. So if you control those factors, you can control the behavior of the individual. That is the concept of organizational behavior. It is a practical oriented approach because it is a creative thinking process. If you understand why an in particular individual respond in a particular situation, so the manager can anticipate the effect of certain actions and avoid the mistake of trial and error. That is why it is being practically oriented approach. The level of analysis are the individual behavior, the group behavior, or the behavior of the organizational itself. It is concerned with effectiveness because organizational behavior is action oriented, goal oriented discipline. In organizational behavior, you understand, you explain, and you predict the human behavior in the context that it may be molding result. So you understand the human behavior so that you can mold the result of those individuals. If you talk about organizational behavior, it is human tool because you are understanding the human benefits, you are understanding the human behavior, you are predicting their behavior. That is why it is a human tool. It is basically satisfaction of the individual and organizational aid. When you understand the organizational behavior, the employees of the organization are satisfied because their needs are satisfied, as well as the organizational objectives are being satisfied. So these are the nature of the organizational behavior. Okay. Next topic is that organizational behavior is situational based. Many scientists and various behavioral scientists, psychologists have emphasized on the basis of the research done in the past that individual behavior is the interaction between the personal characteristics of an individual and the environmental variables. So if you want to understand a particular person's behavior, the pressure placed upon the situation must be understand. That is what the situation a person is dealing with. If you understand that situation, then only you can understand the behavior of the particular person. That is, there are 4 situational thinking variables in the organizational behavior. The first is the human elements because every individual is different. So you need to understand the human element to understand the behavior of the individual. That is, next factor is the technical factor. The technical factor include your production method, your equipments, your management procedures, any specialized skills in any job. That is the technical factor that is responsible for differentiation of the behavior. The space-time dimension, that is the relationship between the size of the plant, the location of the plant, that affects the behavior of an individual. The last is the organizational wide policies designed to achieve the organizational goals. That is the goals of the organization. If the goals of the organization is to satisfy the employee, to motivate them, to have a welfare of their employees, ultimately the employees would be satisfied by working in those organizations. So these are the situational variables that affects the organizational behavior of a particular individual. Thank you. Good morning everyone. Today we will be discussing the factors or the forces that affects the organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is basically how the person working in the organization behave, because organization is basically a group of people working together, so their behavior is influenced by various factors or forces, you can say. So in today's class we will be discussing the factors, the forces that would be responsible for the organizational behavior. The first is the formal structure, that is the hierarchy of the organization, who has to report to whom. If the boss is having the clear vision of the discipline, of the procedures, of the rules, the work that to be done, the subordinates will be performing the work accordingly. So the formal structure of the organization is responsible for the organizational behavior. The next is the task to be undertaken, that is, if the task distribution is appropriate according to the employee skills, their requirement, their capabilities, the task would be performed appropriately. So that is very important. The technology employed and the methods of carrying out work, the technology that is labor intensive, capital intensive, whatever the technology is being employed, the work which is being carried out, if it is clerical work, who has to carry out, if it is like the work of anything that is related to work, if it is given to a right person who is having a right technical knowledge, the work would be done appropriately. The behavior of the other people, how the colleagues, how the environment of the organization is. And finally is the process of management, the work, the handling of the management is also important, how the people are framing the environment of the organization, that is important, and the external environment. So these are the factors that are responsible for having a particular behavior of an individual in a particular organization. So this is a diagram that shows the identified variables that affects the organizational behavior, the individuals and the groups that is being from the environment. The environment consists of this economic environment, political environment, and the social environment that impacts the structure of the organization, the technology, the machinery, the technical skills that affects the structure, job and response relationships, that ultimately affects the impacts the organizational behavior. So these are the forces that affects the organizational behavior of a particular individual in a particular organization. So these are the determinants of the organizational behavior, that is they are level of the organizational behavior are, these are the levels, individual level, group level, or the organizational level. And these are the certain determinants that affects the organizational behavior, that is the people, the environment, the structure of the organization, the environment surroundings, technology, and again the environment. So mainly we can say the people, the technology, and the structure and the environment surrounding the organization affects the behavior of the people. Thank you.